Good evening, folks. It's December 1st, 2022. People are dropping boxes all over the place, and it is Hobby Talk with PSA Canada. You see how smoothly I transitioned that? Y'all can't do anything to throw me off. I'm a professional. Now, let's start off. Let's have a little bit of fun here. Brad, you can't be pushing buttons, man.
Oh, sorry.
See, look. See the things these are the conditions I work under. Just because of that, I'm going to start off with Luke. Luke, how are you this week? How's it going?
I'm good.
Sounds
Good. Busy.
Yeah, busy. Absolutely. Kevin, how are things going for you?
I'm good. I caught up. I'm done. I got out of the 3,000 cards back. I think I'm down to like 60 left in the house. So like perfect.
Fantastic. Well, very similar to the question I asked Brad when we talked about the Expo and we talked about the Gretzky rookies. So I'm going to ask you, out of all the cards you submitted, how many Stringamons did we get?
0 cheese stringamons. They haven't made a card.
Well, they're holy grail. They're holy grails. Obviously, very rare.
I told you I would grade one. As soon as one exists, I will grade one for you.
All right.
I might even go off and get some Japanese and grade it for you.
I think. Listen, whatever it takes, man. We got to get this done. This is right here. This is the holiest of holy grails, the absolute top tier. So I'm gonna grab a couple of comments here, and then we'll say hey to Brad as well. So Yannick, good evening. Absolutely. Baz, good evening. Dave, good evening. Do we really need Brad on this show? Yes, we do. Just for you, Eric. And by the way, we thank you, as always, for sponsoring the like button, because every time somebody presses the like button, we charge Eric. In the spirit of the season, now we're in the month of December. So we are officially in the spirit of the season. And for the holidays, I'm going to charge Eric, wait for it, triple.
Ooh.
The kids need their charity this holiday season, and Eric has generously offered to triple the normal rate, just because that's the kind of guy he is. I feel good about it. It warms the cockles of my heart. Now, in that spirit, Brad, how are you? How are things?
Good. Well, I'm battling the flu. So the flu / COVID / whatever.
Bubonic plague / Black Death /
whatever it is. Yeah, it's been since we had trade night Friday night, and then Saturday around 11 a.m. on Saturday, I just hit a wall. So I've been battling through it here, but I thought I was feeling a little bit better, but now I get a little bit of the hot flashes going on, the sweats a little bit, but we'll see.
It's the pressure of showbiz, Brad. It's the pressure of showbiz.
Exactly.
I get it.
Pressure of showbiz.
Now, question for you. Go ahead.
You have a big party this weekend.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's Sherry's birthday tomorrow, so it's a big 31st birthday.
There you go. Now, question for you. I think we talked about it a little bit, but right now for the stuff from the Expo, all pretty much out the door, officially out the door. What's the status on those things?
Yeah, so everything is completely gone. The only thing that we're waiting, there's 2 boxes that are just stuck at FedEx in California. So they're not actually at PSA yet. So they should be delivered tomorrow morning. So 2 p.m. our time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, the boxes should be there. And then PSA will work on getting them all entered into the system. There was a little bit of that delay too, because American Thanksgiving, Thursday, Friday, both holidays. I could see it now. Like I'm not seeing any of the orders from Toronto. Actually, I shouldn't say that. There is like 2 or 3 of them were entered in, but that's it. Literally out of say 1,000. So I think we'll see over the course of tomorrow and this weekend, they should have 80-90% of them entered into their system. So.
No, that's good. I just wanted to make sure we had an update on that since it's coming off the Expo and everything.
Yeah, so everything is gone. Everything's left. Everything's processed on our end. Everything is shipped. Everything's cleared customs. Everything's good except for 2 boxes just hanging out, which is always the way. Just you said you'd think 8 boxes or 9 boxes. Yeah, 8 boxes was the last shipment we shipped. You'd think they'd all travel together. They never ever do, and it makes no sense to me why. But
right. So there we go. Hockey 99 is offering to pay for your staffing. So I think that's always appreciated. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's saying a data clerk. So I think if Hockey 99 is flipping the bill, get two.
Well, you know what? Honestly, we talk about this all the time. Yep. I would make that decision right now, but there's a lot of things behind the scenes that are happening with PSA, with us, and it's kind of hard to bring on more people, which we need and we want, without having a commitment and knowing what the future plans are. And I'm not saying that with doom and gloom because the future is very positive, but we just have to see what unfolds here in Q1 of 2023 before we make any more of those decisions. So
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say was, like I said, even just knowing what I know about it from the outside a little bit, with a little bit of discussion we've had, it's more of a commitment issue. It's not like it'll never happen, but it's one of those things like the way I would phrase it is, you don't want to commit until there is a confirmed, signed, sealed, and delivered commitment. At that point, it's like, yeah, okay, great. Full steam ahead. Let's go.
yeah.
So what's with the awkward post of people praising Luke? I just like the randomness of this. I would like to know, I didn't know there was a Canada Basketball Cards. I assume that's a forum or a Facebook group, or what is that, Luke? Help me out.
Yeah, it's a Facebook group that was started a little while
so-
ago, and all it is just basketball. Yeah.
So is it just the praising group, Luke group? Is that what we've done? You've created it to be a shrine to yourself?
No. Just guys, I got things back, and they're in love, so.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
It always, I was gonna say it always gets like that when you ship a bunch of shipments back to people.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Facebook posts everywhere, thanking
It's
you,
a double-edged
giving you a
sword,
shout out.
Yeah. Well, that was the
Double-edged
thing.
sword, because they
Go ahead.
go, Carlos.
No, go ahead.
I was saying it's a double-edged sword, because you try to get up as fast as you can. The guys that get their stuff and they're happy with it, they post it, and then it's all this stuff. But then you get like 10 more messages to you. Is my cards back? And then it's
Yeah.
like, oh fuck, I gotta go and yeah. So double-edged sword, but it's good. I mean, mostly are very patient and they're understanding. So which is good, and that's what you look for your customers, right? So
Sounds good. Then the other thing as well is anytime you're in any one of these spaces, and I was on my channel, I had a chat with Billy Celia from Upper Deck, and one of the things is if you allow yourself to be public facing and communicate with the public in any way, you're always going to get questions of a lot of things. And we've had obviously in the hobby a lot of different stuff where we had the manufacturer thing, we're Panini, and we had the stickers and all that bit that we talked about a couple of weeks back. But it's one of those things, like being me, and being that I know Billy and I chat with him quite a bit. I always like to poke a little fun, because at the end of a conversation, I said, I'm getting a couple of boxes of the AEW product. We were talking about that, and I go, so you sent me the marked ones, right? The good ones, right? As we discussed, you gotta poke the bear a little bit. And actually, I was watching somebody do a break, and they do different characters, and that's how you determine who gets what in the break. And one of the people had Jamie Hayter, who's one of the female wrestlers on there. They pulled a high gloss out of 10. Great pull already. So already right there, great pull. Awesome. It was an 8-box break, so you had decent chances of pulling potentially something. Very next box, opened it up, Jamie Hayter autograph out of 5. And it happened within minutes of each other. And I basically took a little clip of it. I sent it to Billy. I go, so when I was explaining the instructions, this is basically what I want, but for mine. Mm-hmm. That's the arrangement, right? That's what we agreed to. I have to give him a little bit of a hard time. So good evening, Jeff. Absolutely. Bobby Brow, good evening. Eric hates children. Fair. Bobby says you traded the wrong thing, Brad. There you go. I don't know what that was for. Eric supports Team Flu. You see, he hates children and he likes the flu. He's pro-disease and anti-children. I like it. Eric's a swell fellow. Hit the like button and he'll pay. Think about it. Good evening, CC. Absolutely. Happy birthday to Sherry. Absolutely. 100%. KC texts here, Phil Brad. Happy birthday, Sherry. 100%. Happy birthday, Sherry, from everybody, and including the people in the chat. Good times. Hobby Cop, I'll work for sports cards. There you go. You might get your data processing. That's not a bad deal. Give us the goods on upcoming announcements in Q1. What else are we here? Tell them that a thing will happen potentially, possibly at some point.
That is the answer. I don't know if Kevin, if you guys know Hockey 99, but he's in the chat and a lot of different things, but on Carlos's Friday night, and he's a mystery. I feel like I know who it is, but I have actually no idea. And I have to give him, I'm assuming him or her credit.
Mathematically, it's probably a fair assumption.
Right. But there's nobody that is out there that is more in the know of what's going on social media. Like when Luke, for example, your Canadian basketball, he is on the ball. Very impressive with Hockey 99.
Shit. I just assume it's Kevin is one of Kevin's burners. He's just very angry at my cheese stringer mod. He had one chance to correct me, and after that he goes, I'm taking it out forever on everyone.
I got a little side account going next to me here.
It's the burner. I know. It's how it is. So I got to get out here. Brad, do you see a plethora of Gaylord Perry Boreas Sawme submissions? Stuff like that does happen, but I don't think it would have occurred that quickly. I could see the Boreas Salming. I could see a couple people, but it would be mostly people on eBay. It would be stuff they already have. Like sending in something now to try to do that, you'd miss the window.
Yeah.
like if that was your objective, you have to already have it, and that's where people on eBay jack up the price. That's usually what happens when somebody passes away. Unfortunately, autographs, memorabilia, and certain high-end cards suddenly get a bump in price. They try to capitalize on it. Same thing happened when Kobe Bryant passed away. The moment that happened, and that all of a sudden the Kobe Bryant autographs and a bunch of stuff suddenly went like this. They pumped up the prices. It's morbid, but it's pretty common, unfortunately.
And it lasts for a week or two,
And that's about it.
Then it just fades away. It's sad. It is very sad, but that's usually the case. You watch, I mean, Dale Howard-Chuck, unfortunately, Bossy, Lafleur, Board Salming. Not that the true passionate fans don't forget, but 95% of the people in the hobby do.
Unfortunately, though, Gaylord Perry is one of those. Like Boris Salming, I could say in Toronto, has a good reverence. Like obviously, is respected and revered. But a guy like Gaylord Perry, he's a Hall of Famer. Like I have a Gaylord Perry autograph over here. But it's one of those things where like I had it forever ago because Ferguson Jenkins did those things where he had the booth, and you had a bunch of baseball players come in. You had Raleigh Fingers, you had Gaylord Perry, you had Louis Tion, a variety of different ones. And I would get a picture, an autograph. I'd buy one every time because it was also charity. So I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll take one of these and get it for charity. But Gaylord Perry is one of those like lower tier Hall of Famers. One of those guys who is like he's a Hall of Famer and he deserves it. If nothing else, for the fact that he cheated openly and blatantly, wrote a book about it, and still continued to cheat. Hashtag goals. And still in the Hall of Fame. Take that, steroid guys. It's like he openly and blatantly cheated and did it while he was still playing after admitting he did it.
Yeah.
Losers? For that, the man should be in the Hall of Fame. For that, he should be in it. CC, have you had any experience of sending a PSA graded card back to PSA for reassessment for overgrading? Read the PSA guarantee. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, for overgrading, we've had one. Kevin knows the guy. One guy that it was it wasn't Magic card, wasn't it, or was it Pokemon?
No, it was Pokemon. It was Pokemon.
Yeah, it was a big card. Anyways, it was graded a 9, and he wanted PSA to put it in a 7 holder or whatever. I think that was the deal. Or it wasn't graded a 10.
It graded. I think it actually did. It graded a 9, and he said it was an 8.
Yeah,
and he sent it back.
and that's true. It was the weirdest thing ever. I was like, they're like, what do you want us to do? I was like, he's not happy with the grade. He thinks it should be a point lower.
Well, I think,
but to be fair, like this guy is like a savant at looking at cards. Like he sent me his rejects, which is like he thought 9s, and like I don't know, he sent a lot direct. But he sent his rejects to me, and there was like 150 cards, and 146 of them got 10s. It was like obnoxiously, like every single card was perfect, and the things that he had poked out as flaws, I was like, that's just manufacturing. Like it was every card was perfect. It was crazy.
I will say, like, look, I'll give an example. I'll give a recommendation for folks that might not be familiar. Here on YouTube, Elite Co 3. If any of you are familiar with Elite Co 3's YouTube channel. He has done submissions for SGC, PSA, a variety of them over the years, not one or two, many thousands and thousands and thousands of cards over the years. Probably tens of thousands, to be 100% blunt and honest. And he has a pretty good eye for a lot of these issues and for a lot of this grades. But the reality is he's one of those where, and he sells the cards, but at the same time, if he feels a card is overgraded by whoever he sends it to, those are the ones he tends to push directly into his eBay page. But on the video, he flat out says, I don't think that's a 9, or I don't think that's a 10, or whatever. There's this issue, this here. He's very transparent about it. But then he goes, yeah, this one's going on eBay. And if somebody wants it, the great. But at the same time, like that's you can see flaws in it. And again, I try, one of the things, and Brad and I, when we originally conceived of doing this show, I think what we try to do here is we try to be very transparent and very honest on a lot of these things as much as possible. There is room in every third-party grader. I can find examples of overgraded cards in everybody's holder.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And through sheer volume alone, you're going to see plenty of examples of PSA because they've graded tens of millions of cards. So by sheer numbers and law of averages, even at a good ratio, you're going to find plenty of overgraded cards simply by math. Simply by math. But that means if you can see that the issue is, I could see a collector who can see the issue and sees the 10. You could technically take advantage of the PSA guarantee, because if you can basically point out the flaw and be like, well, guys, this flaw should not have allowed it, because then I think you get compensated the difference. I believe that's how the guarantee basically works, isn't it?
Yeah, I've had two people that were both extremely. I kind of left it after I put it in PSA's hands.
Yeah.
And I talked to both of them, and one was a 6-figure card. That there was issues, there was a scandal. Anyways, long story short, I asked the guy without getting into too many details. I said, "Were you happy with how PSA handled it?" And he goes, "I was extremely happy." And he no longer has the card, so PSA took the card back, and I don't know what happened from there. But so, and the other case, the same thing, both people. So in the 2 times I had to deal with the card being something wrong with it, or it was one of them was overgraded, they were both customers were very happy. So
Absolutely. And but that's the reason though I made the point about the why someone would actually want, because the hobby cop says, why would you want lower? It depends. That's why I say it depends on what you're doing. Like if you're just selling the card and you can just live with it and be done with it, you know, obviously if you can see when I grade cards, and again being as transparent as possible, when I grade cards, I generally have a pretty good idea what flaws are on the card. And I've submitted cards that I'm pretty sure should get a 9, and more than a few have gotten 10s. And I've also submitted ones that I think are pretty good, that the flaw is there, but it's minor enough that I figure it should be fine, that have got 9s. So I've seen both sides of that equation. But I have never seen a flawless card. Let me put it this way. I have always found problems on the surface, on the corners, on the edges, on every card that has ever existed that I have ever had my hands on. I have seen flaws on them. But the graders don't necessarily pick that up. There is a little bit of tolerance built into. By the way, that includes SGC cards, that includes BGS cards, that includes CSG cards. I have never seen a flawless card in my life.
To be fair, this guy owns a very, very, very large eBay. I think he's like a top 2 or 3 seller in Canada.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of card that disrupts. Pokemon is completely different. This kind of card is like, it disrupts the pop report completely, because a 9, it could be the second 9 ever graded or something like that of this kind of card.
Sure.
And him knowing that his end goal is to sell it, or that he has the other 9, or that he owns the 10, it's just going to create problems with the buyers that he knows would be looking for a card of that magnitude.
Sure.
So for him, he's like, why would I deal with someone claiming that this card isn't graded properly or something along that lines? And I think that's why he did it. Personally, I would say it's a 9, so go with it. Like that would be me. But he's very by the book of like, I don't want to deal with the backlash at the other end of it when it does sell and somebody contacts me for X, Y, and Z of the flaw that should have been picked up by PSA. So
I can understand that. It's I think it goes back to the reason you're doing it. It goes back to what your end game is for whatever you send in. We all have our reasons, but I think as long as you understand what those reasons are, hey, you do you. You know, you paid the money. You have the right to get your day in court, so to speak, if that's what you want to do. So you go, Sherry acknowledges the thanks. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say about the grading. You know, I like obviously I've seen ones that, and I've talked to people that they thought that this one was 10 or it's a higher grade than what they got and stuff like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, I always tell people it's human eye, right? And it's different sets of eyeballs that look at it, but it's not just one thing they're looking at. They're not just looking at corners or edges or stuff. They're looking at like 4 or 5 different things. So maybe all 3 is good, the corner, the edge, and the surface, but then the centering is a little bit off, or whatever it is. So I mean, I think that plays. It's just, I don't know. Like I think that's why they get the 10. Like it's definitely not a perfect card. And I don't think any, like you said, any card is a perfect card for sure. Right, but there's got to be some kind of flaw, and there's got to be some kind of something off. But we look at mostly the centering, right? We mostly look at the centering corners. Yeah.
Well, I would advise, like, if I was going to suggest to somebody, if they think like on the first purview that the card looks like it's perfect, really look over the surface. There are way more surface flaws. That's how you're going to separate like your average, below average grader. After you do the obvious, centering, of course, corners, edges, take a look at them. You don't have to spend 5 hours staring at them, but take a look at it to catch anything obvious, chipping or anything like that. Then take a moment and really look at the surface. 99 times out of 100, if you're not sure what the problem is, it's there. That is the answer to your question. But you got to take a good look at it, because that's where you're going to find a lot. I watch reveals where somebody is like, "Oh, how could it have gotten this great?" And it's like, and they filmed it with a potato. And I can still see the flaw in the pixelated potato footage. And I was like, well, if I could see it from there, you can sure still see it in person. The problem is you're not seeing it, and you don't know what you're looking for, which I understand. But at the same time, understand that. I like hockey. I like how hockey follows up. So we're gonna go here. It's like I got my own comments about that startup, but I'm gonna leave that one be. And I like this response. It's like, all right, Brad, you and Hockey 99 in Thunderdome. I will sell pay-per-view. I will sell tickets. It will be glorious.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I did want to say too.
Go ahead.
I know Casey Tex on here. Derek sent an email today, and that he did something very nice for us. The fillable version on the website. He created a fillable version and sent it over. So we are going to add that to our website. I haven't had a chance to respond to him today, but Derek, thank you very much for that. That's again, that's something that we just appreciate. Something very, I mean, I don't want to say very small, but it's a very nice gesture, and we appreciate that. And you'll see that on the website.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yep, and this, like we mentioned when we talked about the website a couple of weeks ago, is that we expect it to be an evolution. There's going to be adjustments along the way, but it kind of goes back to Hockey 99's previous question. If it was just, everything is locked up, everything's buttoned up, and we've got and all the commitments are in place. Hey, full speed ahead. Fix the website, get it connected. Let's go. You should be able to check your stuff directly in, be directly connected to the PSA servers. Done deal. Let's go.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, that would be the best. And that isn't to say it'll never happen, because it very well could. There's always a possibility, but it's not one party that gets to make that choice. It's got to be a mutually agreed upon thing.
Yeah.
So real quick, I'll just make sure I get through these ones. So good. All right, we covered that. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of what the future holds, because now when we're in December, this is the time of the year where I know it's a lot of like looking back at the year and looking back at everything and then starting to plan for next year. And that's across the board. That's in everyone. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Very important. Man, we make Eric pay. Make it pay. We already covered this. He hates kids and he likes disease. Why would you wouldn't you make that man pay? You should. Now, this was a question for you. So this one was for Hockey 99. Luke, he wants you to speak because he loves hearing your words of wisdom. So we'll give him this one. What do you think of the mediocre rise and falls of cards over the last 2.5 years? It's very broad. Could you give it to us in 47 words or less? I'm joking. Go ahead. Go ahead. Broad strokes. Give it a go.
I don't know. I mean, you know what? I look at the basketball stuff. Like it rose too quick. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of stuff that went really high and fall along and trickle along to a lot of different things. Like went to football and basketball, baseball, and hockey and stuff too. But I mean, it gets to a point where some people can only afford so much, and I guess everything's all kind of relative to what it is. I think the way the economy is obviously done a lot to where we are today. But I think at the end of the day, everybody's still if everybody's in there still as a collector, you're still going to be able to go do. But we can't sell this stuff, and we can't pretend and believe that the values of the cards are what they were 2.5 years ago, or even a year and a half ago. They'll never be there again. I don't think, not for a while.
Right.
So.
No, I think.
But
That's
what
fair.
I think it's a good roller coaster ride. That's my opinion about it.
I think that's good. Kind of the thought that I had as well, so I'll kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, is that we got a unique set of conditions that gave us a very specific. It boosted things faster than it ever should have gone, and quicker, and it forced a lot of things. But kind of the contrarian take that I've given to a lot of folks is a lot of what you got out of it depends on you. There are some people who made some money at. There are people who are going to lose some money because they paid too much for stuff that didn't warrant it. But another angle I would give you, another collector angle that I would at least consider, that's something to think about, is that when you're looking at it from the perspective of, say, a player collector, or a team collector, or whatever you want from that regard, bear in mind one thing. Somebody like me, there are certain items that were hidden away for a very long time that suddenly saw the light of day. And they saw the light of day only because people saw that sales were up, and suddenly they were motivated to move cards that had been sitting dormant for the longest time. So for somebody like me, it was suddenly like buying season. Now, did I go into it going like, oh yeah, I want to buy it? No. But it was just like, I've been waiting forever to get this one. Let me get my hands on that one. I'm waiting forever to get this one. I get my hands on that one. It's not that they didn't exist. It's that they were being held in these hands until suddenly, oh, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that money again. Let me put it out on the market and see what happens. So it kind of depends on your perception. It's the same situation that we're all looking at the same time. This went crazy. This went crazy. And I'm like, But the only reason I have that card in my collection is because of this specific run up. And if it doesn't happen again, that's okay. I was able to take advantage of it. That's cool. But some of the stuff shouldn't go back to where it was. Other stuff will eventually kind of creep back in there, but it's going to take longer. It's going to be the more slow, rise back up to that instead of that sudden rapid rise.
Yeah, but you know what's going to make it fun is some of these high pop cards are going to, where they were, say up to, I don't want to use the Prism Luca that everyone uses, but that's an easy one.
Yep.
Say if that settles in, like it went to $1,000, now it's down to $200 or whatever it is for a 10. Mm-hmm. But when Luca, once that settles in where that price is, even use other guys, Prism, like a Pascal Siakam Prism rookie, PSA 10, if it's $40, if that's where it settles in at, $40 for a PSA 10. When Siakam gets hot or is playing well, that card will go up to 40, could go up to 50, go up to 60, maybe like $70. And then all of a sudden, if he gets cold, that will drop down. I feel like a lot of these high pop cards are going to play in the market, and that's going to be fun for people. That's going to create another little niche. You're not going to have these 10Xs. You're not going to have this happen. But all of a sudden, it's like, you know what? I'm going to speculate on this guy. He might have potential to increase, again, not 3 or 4 times, but he might go up 50% over 2 months if he gets hot. So all of a sudden, then it's going to open up a new game. There's going to be some new fun for new passionate collectors and for people that actually know sports, know the cards. You have to know a little bit more than whether you have the ability to drive to Walmart, get out of your car, buy boxes, bring them out, sell them to the guy outside or on eBay for 10 times. You know what I mean? Like that's what happened for a solid year. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If not more than a year. I think it's going to be great when the dust all settles in. There's going to be some fun to prospect, and you're going to be able to, without taking high risk, you're going to have some fun with it. And you're going to see kids doing it along with us adults as well.
I think that's fair. Let me read a couple of these ones. Eric claims not to have money. Don't listen to him. He's rich. Mm-hmm. Casey here says, sorry, not Luke, Kevin. Gotcha. Nico here says, the money printer went burr for too long. By the way, for the record, in Canada, we got screwed out of this. I wanted my free government money. When do I get my free government money? I still haven't gotten any. Where's my stimulus money? Yo, stimulus money. When do I get it? It was one of my favorite things with a lot of the commentators that were talking about the U.S., how the U.S. had all that stimulus money and that, partially precipitated all the way. It's like, I haven't gotten a dime. I was working the whole time. I didn't get a dime. Not 1 cent. When do I get it? When do I get money? Jerks. The thing that helped me was that by going to commuting and work from home, which I now still get to take advantage of, because the way I work, I do it in front of a computer anyway, so it's not like I need to go to the office every day. I save money on GO Train and Subway, and then suddenly I was like, wait, for me it was like $600 a month after tax, and I was like, sweet, I'm rich. Wait, where did the money come from? That was my money. I was spending it before.
It's funny when people look at that, how. Not to get off topic again, but when the pandemic hit and someone that loves cards and knows cards and cards are part of who I am my entire life.
Yep.
March 2020, being in the restaurant nightclub business, we laid off 300 people, closed the doors, literally lost what I've worked for 10 or 15 years to build. And it was like kind of postponed. And then I realized it was gone. And there's nothing you can do. It's like $2 or $3 million. Like it's done. You lay off 300 people and you look around and I'm like, oh my God. And then I'm sitting there thinking, oh, even cards. Like who is going to buy sports cards? I think I told this same story on one of your shows, Carlos, but like anyone that would have thought that, like I'm an optimistic person, as most people know. I was like, the hobby's going to go to shit. Excuse my language, but the hobby's dead. Like the world is ending here, folks. And all of a sudden it's like this saving grace. The hobby decides to do this rocket ship and take off, it's just incredible for me. It was like life-saving, literally life-saving opportunity that arise. That's for sure.
Yeah. And very similar, the opposite side of Brad. I'm a pessimist by nature. So that's why as soon as the bank stock dropped immediately, I went to go buy. It's like no, the bank will still be here either way. No, that's actually a true story. When it hit, some of the bank stock went down. One of them that I used to work at went down by more than half. And I was sitting there like, okay, so I don't work there anymore. So this is not insider information, but I know for a fact they had already done a reorg and everything before that. They had actually been planning for some financial headwinds in advance. That was in their planning before. So I was like, actually, they're running lean. This makes no sense because this company is not only solvent, they're actually running really lean right now. They're not going to have to lay off a single person unless they suck because they don't like them. That's it. Other than that, so guess what? I bought it for half price. It's still more than double what I paid for it, even right now in the recession. I just wish I bought more. That's my only regret. So Hobby Cops here says, did the PSA ever open a second USA location? New Jersey is open. They're not grading right now. In the long run, the expectation is, so kind of answer this question, I'll give my angle, and if you want to add a little more, Brad, by all means. With the market possibly continuing, will they put on hold closed? I think the intention for them, they have a campus in New Jersey. It's not like a small facility. They have a whole build out in New Jersey. So they're committed to the location to give them additional potential capacity and a whole bunch of stuff. Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah. I think, you summed it up there. I think we're going to see over the next 6 months, in my personal opinion, you'll see some of the secrecy behind PSA kind of revealed. I think they have to be careful how much they're going to open up, but I feel like you're going to see more behind the scenes in the very near future. And I think that would even be more transparency about how things are going to go regarding New Jersey, California, Japan. I think you're going to see the curtain pulled back a little bit, which is exciting because, I mean, I want to know as much as anyone else, what's the plans? What are they going to do? So you will see that soon.
Sounds fair. So Hoggy, are really people going to be sending in pink cosmic straight parallels and master grading? Don't criticize my grading options. The 2022 products aren't worth the boxes they arrive in. Don't criticize my grading options. Why doesn't PSA Canada have an advertorial documentary coming out? I like that he put it as advertorial. It was a hobby fluff piece. I reviewed it. Similar to the behind the card. Brad, I know you know filmmakers. Brad, so when do we get the the behind the scenes of PSA Canada documentary? Kevin, what are you doing? Look, I'm trying to get this stupid cheese string 'em on graded for Carlos. Just leave me alone. I'm working on it. All right? I'm busy.
I know. That's not on the media plans at this time. But
okay, so can I make a serious comment about this?
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing the review. I had a lot of fun with it. And I had a lot of fun with my rebuttal to the director about this review. I'll talk more about that on Friday. But I will say this. I watched several interviews that he's done about this whole behind the card thing. And the justification he has for this film existing is really stupid. Like, let me just be blunt. It's a really stupid argument. Basically, they wasted a bunch of money. And he's made money back from it. He got a production company to buy it. So good on him. Congratulations. I'm sure it was profitable for him, and I think it worked out for him. That doesn't change the fact that, in my opinion, I preface it with, in my opinion, the movie sucks. It's a waste of time. And it would be stupid for anybody to patronize it. However, with that said, it also is worthless in the sense of actually what it's supposed to be doing, which is supposed to be an advertisement of the hobby to the general masses who are not familiar, because the information in it is inaccurate and now out of date. So you're actually telling people a fictional version of the hobby that no longer exists. And they don't have the context to know that this is what people were saying about it in 2020, 2021, and we're in 2022, the end of 2022, going into 2023. So a lot of these statements and things don't match because HCA is a non-entity at this point and they're prominently featured in it. That doesn't make any sense. A lot of these other players are not even involved in it. They don't doesn't make any sense. So it's inaccurate in every way, shape. So if it's supposed to be an infomercial, it's a completely inaccurate infomercial. Therefore, what good is it? So you're trying to promote people with a lie. Seems an odd choice, but hey, you do you. So real quick, I'll go through here. Does anybody want to add anything? I want to open it up, but I just wanted to kind of summarize that with that point.
No.
I haven't watched it yet, but I've watched your reviews.
Yeah. Look, my favorite thing about that is because the guy got so obsessed, the director got so obsessed with my review, it drove enough traffic to my videos that I got my money back. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm the biggest winner in anybody who actually watched that movie, in the sense that it effectively cost me net nothing. And that's about what it's worth. Net nothing. Dave here says, definitely true in vintage. AH is floating with pre-1960 material. There's still a fair bit of it out there. No issue. There's no issue there. Adam, good evening. Kevin, why Pokemon over sports? Jeez, string them on, bro. Holy grail of grails.
I don't know. I started in sports, but I find sports is it was a lot harder to get into if you weren't like established in like 2016. Like back when I was in it, it was just Klutz and Chara, and that was it. And you couldn't do anything, and that was all it was. So I was like, okay. So then I started looking at Pokemon cards because I had collected Pokemon when I was a kid, and then it was just a good opportunity. So I kind of just thought about that, left it, and then when I got into my car accident in 2018, I needed a hobby, and that's what happened.
I will say though, even though that wasn't the reason why you did it, it is kind of nice to niche down a little bit sometimes, because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not like there's nobody taking in or doing sports cards. That's why I kind of have fun when I do my own stuff. I am a sports card channel. That is what I do, but I have no issue bringing in somebody from Upper Deck to talk about the AW, talk about wrestling cards, or opine on that element. It's a little bit different. It's off the beat. I'm not spending all my time talking about that, but
Yeah.
but as a collector, I'm not only in one lane. As a collector, I've got different interests that expand beyond the core. I still have people that are like, "Oh, I thought you just did hockey cards." That's literally like my number 3 thing. If you actually figure out, if you actually run the numbers, you're going to find out I actually don't have that many hockey cards relative to other cards and sets that I've built. But I understand the
That's the
perception.
big thing. I learned a lot about sports before I went into Pokemon, so it's not like I have just Pokemon knowledge. I think I have the background knowledge in sports. I just kind of focused heavily more on Pokemon, but I still have like I still collect sports in the background. It's not my business that I focus on. It's not what I carry really at the store. It's 99% Pokemon is what I deal with. And no, none of the UPC promo cards have come back yet.
There you go. So, Casey, now that you clarified that, we got the answer for you. Although you did show me a Tom Brady card once. That's non-sport. Anyway, Dave here. Your kids will be much better off because you didn't get free money. I don't have kids, and I'm not worried about the next generation. Screw them, Dave. They can suffer. I want my free money. Thank you. Good day. I get his point, but I'll take my free money, Dave. See Brad in the grading room. Brad, you can go around with your loop.
I know. I'd love to. That is something that I would love to see, like, and actually partake, like, to see the whole operation from start to finish. So I hope at some point I will be able to.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. We kicked around the idea, and we'll still keep kicking it around. We got to figure out time, place, and situation. Ideally, in a perfect world, and there was actually a question. Usually I address them a little bit off the top, but there was one question that I thought was valid that I wanted to at least touch on, and that was pertaining to the kind of, not so much behind the scenes, but it was kind of the idea of explaining a little bit of the process, explaining, tips and tricks, and that's one of the things we talked about potentially doing on this channel at some point. It's about getting coordination. I'll actually read what the comment is. It was from
I didn't
Tim.
answer that. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, it's the Tim Sawtrupo. I totally butchered the last name. My apologies. So Tim S. Said, where is the best place to see a video on packaging and shipping cards to PSA Canada? Which is a really good call out and something we've definitely talked about, because that's a very doable one. That's some tips in ways of packaging it so that people have that information. I actually think that's really good info that we can definitely make available. That's something we've definitely talked about.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you can see, like, when you get a good shipment in.
So I think that's actually a really handy piece of information. I think Luke and Kevin, you guys will agree. If anything that helps people with that, like, that would be huge. It would be, some folks just aren't comfortable with it, and if you can offer them any tips, I think it'd be great.
When you see shipments that come in, like this was from a gentleman today that sent it in, card's perfect, sheet in order, elastics neat. That just show they know exactly what to do. And if you don't know what to do, then how would you ever guess to do this? Yep. But it's absolutely perfect. The one thing I have been learning as well, and this is for everyone, I talked to Luke and Kevin about it, is if the order is all completed, so on our end, if we go through when we enter it into psacard.com and then we find every card, the card's the proper card, those orders are the ones that are flying through. So we're getting bulk orders back in like a 3-4 week period instead of 120 days when some are waiting behind. If there's an error in a person describing a card, if it's on us inputting in it, or if there's a card out of order or anything like that, that can delay the process literally up to for months, because it will go into a different lane. So the better, the more time we can take. And that's why I did with these Toronto orders as well. And I had a friend of mine, Lloyd Gardner, help me out, because otherwise we'd never be able to do it. Really take the time to make sure that these orders the cards were described as the cards that were there. And it does get very, very hard. not so much. I used to say the Pokemon cards were harder to find, but I think there's 80 different variations of some of the Prism basketball. And when you're looking at them now, like to discover if it's a blue shimmer, a pulsar, a disco, good luck. I try hard on every one of them, but sometimes you just give up and you say, I'm just going to call it this. And then if that's the wrong card and you put it on the order, that could create a problem order. That takes more time to process. So.
Yeah, the only tip I would give to somebody, by the way, anybody who's trying to fill out one of those things just to help yourself out, if you're not familiar with the issue, if it is a numbered card, this is a recommendation I'll give, just to try to, a tip, maybe that'll help a little bit. There are a lot of different places you can check. It's our personal favorite. Eric, personally, loves and vouches for everything Beckett does. But specifically, I would recommend, you can still use their little checklist database. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But if it's a numbered card, if you pull up the issue and the player, you can see the different parallels. If you do that with the number of that specific card, if it's, say, numbered out of 75, you can immediately narrow the field. You can take a look at what it says there. I actually do that all the time myself. If I am not sure about a certain parallel because I don't know what it actually looks like, I can use that. And if it's numbered, there are usually different tiers of numbering. Oftentimes, there's only one that's out of 75. Okay, that's the one. That's the specific parallel I'm looking for, and it helps you narrow it down a little bit quicker. Just a tip.
I use it all the time. Yeah. It's a lifesaver for numbered cards. But again, when you're looking back and you're inputting them, and you from a time standpoint, we do take the time to do that. But when you go into an online price guide, you find the card, you take it back, all of a sudden you could spend 2 or 3 minutes entering one card. So when you are entering 10,000 cards, you just simply do the math. You're like, all right, we'll get these done in 8 weeks, which doesn't go. So
absolutely. Dave here is a big fan of Vegas Dave, who's featured prominently in that gloriously terrible movie. Gloriously terrible. It's important I include gloriously. Speaking of glorious, Eric says, a sports card channel, it's a channel of gloriousness. That's what he wrote. He can't spell. Hobby Cop says, when do you think we'll see print runs reduced in cards? Obviously, that crazy high print runs we're seeing this year are based on when the market was at its peak. Think we'll see lower next year or take 2 years? So I can actually give you a little bit of background on this one, just from folks that I talked to that are in the manufacturers. The delay is real, but the delay is more dramatic than you think. And the reason I say so is that, like I said, looking at just some of the products that I've talked to through them with, we can see like the wrestling helps because you can actually identify based on television when certain characters were prominent or when certain things mattered a little bit more. But then by the time you see the product printed, you can actually see how long the delay was. You can it actually gives you a bit of a gauge. One of the images that's used on there that's in the new product, the 2022, was something that happened back in 2021 on a television special that was on there, and I was able to ID photo match the specific thing. But that's how long the delay was between the time they got the photo, produced the product, printed the product, and brought it out. And a bunch of stuff changed between then and now. So it's like a 1 year, think of like a 1 year runway. So Hobby Cop, if they find that they're not selling through some of this stuff and they want to change course, you're basically building in like a 12-month before they can actually start responding. About 12 months, maybe more in some cases, depending on the product. That's a good rule of thumb.
I think you'll see a lot of that retail product will be cut. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say 50%. I don't know what the percentage will be, but from a retail standpoint, there's you just
already see them winding it back.
Oh yeah,
the Walmart doing 25% off is after they've jacked their prices up 60% in the last 2 years. Yeah. Now it's not the desirable stuff that still gets picked up regardless of the price, it seems, but it is product that is on the shelves that they're putting now 25% off, and if that doesn't move it, then at the end of the day they're still a business. They're not gonna want the shelf space taken away for stuff that's not selling. So
absolutely, that's the thing. The sales numbers will tell the tale, and so the odds are for some of that product, if it simply doesn't move, then they'll have to blow it out. They'll have to basically put it on like heavy discount and get rid of it and move it off. We've seen that not only in sports cards, we've seen that with Wizards of the Coast and Magic and some of the issues they're having right now where they're literally having to blow it out through Amazon. So if you're somebody who's patient, you're actually able to buy the product. If you wanted this product, you're able to buy it out at blowout prices below what the wholesale the distributors were getting at it. And that's because
the only thing I don't know the outlook will be is Pokemon, because the demand for Pokemon is still insane. Like I don't even know what it is about it right now, but even with the way the market's been, it's crazy. Like our Walmart locally gets stocked, and by 4 p.m. it's either all sold or all stolen, one or the other. So
But you can see the demand though. Like I mean, we can see it at AMG. That's for sure. Is slowed down for everything. There's no doubt about it. And our allocations are getting larger, so that does make a difference. Say on Pokemon, when a new product comes out, we used to get 36 booster boxes, and now I get 120 or 150 booster boxes. So that's probably the reason why, when I really think about it, is we just get a hell of a lot more products. So, but we used to sell out instantly, obviously with lower numbers. So, but Pokemon still is our best seller. So,
very true.
You're welcome.
But it's getting weird because theoretically, like, we could actually get 3 cups this year, right? If it right now it's delayed for 2020 in January.
Yep.
We still haven't got 2021, and then usually 2022 would come out at the end of the year. So theoretically, that could be 3 cups this year.
I see nothing could possibly go wrong. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know. I don't know why they did it. Well, I shouldn't say. I don't know why, but obviously there's lots of reasons behind it. But I love the double rookie class of 13-14. Like, that was awesome.
I did too. Oh my God, I love that.
Well, that was a very specific case, though. Look, I'm not revealing any state secrets here. Because Upper Deck has flat out said what the issue has been. The issue has been with the suppliers getting the stuff out there. And back in late 2021, I want to say late 2021, I remember talking about this on the channel, and I kept explaining it to try to amplify it, to be like, no, listen, this was the president of Upper Deck at the time, who I think is still the president of Upper Deck, flat out said that the logistics were so messed up, they didn't expect that things would get back to quote unquote normal until 2023. We're still in 2022. He said that back at the end of 2021. He basically said, don't even pretend that 2022 is going to be normal. It might have even been earlier than that. He just flat out said the next couple of years are going to be basically jacked up compared to normal.
I think it would have been safer to just cut products though then. And redistribute the cards into different products and be like, oh, like exquisite, throw that into like SP authentic, just add more chases into the cards that the big sets, like SPA being delayed is a huge thing. Like, people go after that set like crazy. So you might as well cut some of these fluff products that I know Upper Deck loves to push, just like Panini and all those, and just push the cards into the other products and just add more chases into those products.
Now I will throw, but I'll throw one thing at you. Just bear in mind as well. Remember, all the manufacturers do not manufacture anymore. Panini doesn't manufacture anything. Upper Deck doesn't manufacture anything. They all use suppliers, third-party suppliers. The problem is they tend to use the same third-party suppliers. And this is me giving my opinion on it. I've never asked explicitly what the contract status is of it, because that's not my business. I don't work there. It would not shock me if Panini simply outbid them for first access to the printer, because they're using the same one. So if Panini is sitting there like, I want my stuff printed first, here's a check, I'm just going to slide it across the table, you'll print mine first. It means there'll be 10 Panini products produced and then 1 Upper Deck product. 5 more Panini products produced, 1 Upper Deck product.
Well, so that's exactly what happens in trading cards, because Cardamundi is like the big one for them, and Magic has priority on it. So Magic's always #1 ranked, and that's why even when Pokemon and the craziness of everything, like, Magic still came out every single week at Walmart when nothing else showed up. There was never a shortage of Magic. And now it pushed Pokemon to go and buy their own printing company so that they didn't have to rely on, I guess, other people or that precedence of who gets first dibs and that kind of stuff. So it's surprising to hear that the sports cards kind of compete with one another, but I guess it makes sense.
Well,
it became so much money.
Yeah, but it also became an issue when they stopped actually being manufacturers. When they stopped being manufacturers, they no longer had control over it anymore. You're literally handing it over to somebody else's hands, and it creates that opportunity. It creates that ability for somebody to basically just be like, money will fix this. Panini. So that's why I say I try to compare apples to apples. And if you use a niche brand, a niche category, it's easier. So when I look at that wrestling one, people are like, well, how come Panini was able to release Revolution? Panini was able to release Impeccable. I think Impeccable. And they were able to release this product and this product and this product. And there was one AEW product from Upper Deck for this longest time. Well, because Panini is using that printer and Panini said, you will print our stuff or we'll pull our contract. And they're like, yes, Mr. Panini, here you go. They didn't miss a single drop. They got every single drop they wanted all the way along. They got Select, they got Prism, they got Impeccable, they got Revolution. I just counted 4. We are officially on the 3rd release of AEW, and it literally came out yesterday after comfortably over a year. And the next 2 are already announced. Like it's already out there. But that's how far backed up they are. It's like, it's not because they can't do it. It's not because they made too many products. It's because the printer is like holding it in the back. It keeps getting put to the back of the line. It hurts. So I like this one. Dave here says, I thought Brad was flying his private jet for all. When he's in the Lear, Brad. The Lear.
I know. It is nice to have friends in high places sometimes.
There you go. Hockey United says, I'm waiting a bit longer for submitting more cards, hoping for the New Year's sale, price drop. I would never go off the idea of predicting that because you never know what category it's going to get. We did get the TCG one has been brought back. So you got the TCG special has been returned. They announced that. A lot of folks were really like, oh, are we getting TCG? Sorry, Joel here. So Joel, good evening. I noticed I messed up the address on my submission form. Might that cause a delay?
Nope, you're okay.
Yeah. As long as your contact info is good and they can reach you, they can always make a correction.
100%. Well, before you ship, you confirm. So you're safe.
Dave here says, did anybody see that Ken Golden had his lawyer send a cease and desist letter to Sports Card Radio? I say he's getting bad advice. Why bother? So we'll touch on this more tomorrow, Dave. But short version, no, the lawyer wasn't giving him bad advice. They were just forgetting who they were dealing with. A cease and desist letter only works if someone is concerned about a legal threat. Basically, if you send a cease and desist letter and you know somebody's really stubborn, you better be damn well willing to go through with the lawsuit. You could still do it, but then you better be ready to make good on that threat. Because at that point, if you're not willing to make good on the threat, they can basically just shred up the thing, make fun of you in a video, which they did, and then shred up the letter and ignore you. Because
I don't know if Ken Golden would want his closets opened. That's all I gotta say.
Well, here's the thing. That was kind of their take on it, and I understood the point because Ken Golden has a lot of stuff. Like I've always joked about it. It's like Ken Golden has plenty of skeletons in his closet. Discovery is a very powerful. Literally, the Sports Card Radio guys know enough to know that you have the right to defend yourself in discovery. So it means if they're willing to pay their lawyer to do their diligence properly, they can bring up every jaywalking ticket he's ever gotten, anything he's ever done wrong, anyone he's ever slighted, any business deal that looks shady, and it all gets put on public record. So it's like, are you sure you want to open the Pandora's box? Ken has resources, but do you want to open that Pandora's box? Unless you're legitimately willing to go through with it and just accept the consequences, then there's no point in even bothering with the letter. That's my opinion. All right. Anybody want to add anything to that? Make sense? All good?
No.
No comment.
Well, we only play lawyers on TV. So Hockey Natty says, I can't imagine print runs will go down. Eventually they will, but it's not a quick process. So Bedard and is it Wambama?
Wambama?
I have no idea. Something. We're gonna call him Wham. We're gonna call him Wham.
Oh, he's gonna have a nickname.
Yeah. So Bedard.
Wham Bam.
Probably, yeah. You could do it. Why not? To the moon. Fnatic spent too much. I don't think Upper Deck is going to print to the moon because we just established they can't. If they try to print to the moon, the product will never come out.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to control it. There will be plenty. Like, for example, Upper Deck Young Gun, there'll be plenty of those printed. I don't think that'll be an issue. But other products, we'll see. But no, print runs can totally go down because if you print too much, you don't sell it, you don't make money. Like you actually have to sell the product eventually to somebody.
Think how many cards in November 2023 if Series 1's released and PSA has on-site grading at the Toronto Expo. How many Connor Bedard cards do you think would be opened that weekend and graded?
How many cases would we open, Brad?
As long as he's in Series 1.
Yeah, I know.
Who knows what Upper Deck's going to do?
They can't. Again, anything can happen if he doesn't play, etc. If something, but if he's playing and he's playing in the NHL, he starts the season on a team, then he has to be in Series 1. That would be the biggest blunder Upper Deck has ever made, in my opinion.
But sorry, going back to what you were saying, Carlos.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're gonna like print a whole bunch of these.
So for
Because-
the young guns, they always print a fair bit. Like they're always going to print a fair bit. Like it's not like they're
They do.
short printed. Young guns are really not short printed relatively.
Yeah, but they're not going to print more than what they did this year, or last year, or the year before. Because if you think about it, there's only so many young guns in a set, right? So there's like what 50 or something.
Well, 50 in each series, I think. It's 50 in each series.
So
Am I-
50,
Yeah, 50-50.
yeah, so 50, and then each box or each case, you should have one exclusive and maybe perhaps one high gloss, right? So I mean, if you do the numbers, there can only be so much. They can't produce 200 exclusives.
Well,
to increase the
Luke, to be
production.
fair, that assumes like I don't want to make any assumptions of the design they decided to go with 2023. It's like normally you're right. They have the high gloss and they have the exclusives, so that makes sense. Unless they're like, oh, Connor Bedard, the super high glossy exclusive Dufex version. Wait, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? Why are there 37 parallels?
But you can
So yeah,
control.
that would be.
Yeah, you control the
Go ahead, Brad.
hobby, right? You can control the hobby boxes, but there's no control on blasters, tins, retail.
Yeah, they could have a lot of fun with that one. Yeah.
Eat of all of them. Like, I mean, I still think there's ways you can quantify. You can see what distributors buy, how much of certain product. There's ways that behind the scenes guys in the know can calculate how much is produced. The wild card factor is is EPAC.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
nobody.
That's crazy.
Nobody's ever going to know EPAC. You know what I mean? Is there 100,000 young gun Connor Bedards in EPAC, or 10,000 or 5,000? Who knows, right? And nobody besides Upper Deck will ever know that. So
So that's why all those formats are the X factor. So like Luke, your point is completely fair, but things like EPAC can completely throw a monkey into this whole thing because you could technically print digital cards unlimited and then make certain things physically available because you can still make physical because you've got you combine 5 of them and then you get your silver. I forget what they call them, but it's like you can combine it and turn it into a card that can be used as a physical card, so they do that. But you can still have quite a number of those if you make enough digital cards. You can have plenty of 5s that become physical cards, special physical cards. The foil ones, they're extra fancy.
No, I agree. I think the regular young guns perhaps are going to be like tens of thousands of them, but I think theoretically there shouldn't be, right? Because there should be X amount in a case, X amount of this, and like Brad was saying, if we can calculate it, then I'm sure we can calculate it's going to be the same amount as what it was last year. But
I'm
you're
putting
right.
the low
I mean,
end of 50K. I'm shooting maybe for 6 figures. I'd
But
be shocked. I
EPAC, yeah,
could see
for
them go
sure.
6 figures.
the one good thing you can tell of grading pop reports can put a little bit of it in perspective, right?
True.
I
give you
still
an
think
idea.
there should be a lot more than there is. Like I think Matthews and McDavid are both hovering around 2,400. Like I feel like there should be more PSA 10. Sorry, that's for PSA 10s. But I feel like there should be more. I feel like that number might get up to and settle in at 4,000 to 5,000 at some point over the next 3 or 4 years. I feel like when you look at Crosby, Ovechkin at like 1,200 or whatever their numbers is, I feel like they're getting close to the settle point. I think maybe they'll creep up to 1,500, but never more than 2,000.
Yeah, it's weird. Sports is like they have that like initial, and like grading wasn't as big back in Crosby and Ovechkin, so like that peak is a lot smaller than what it is with McDavid. Like McDavid came out and it was literally like everybody send it to get graded.
Yeah.
And they produced a hell of a lot. Upper Deck produced a hell of a lot more 15-16 than they did 14-15. That's why one of the hardest products to get in Upper Deck history is 2014-15 Upper Deck Series 2. It's almost non-existent. Try to go on eBay right now, and I bet you there's not a hobby box of 14-15 Series 2 available. Not even a blaster, because they printed so less of that because they were preparing, and stores were preparing to order 15-16 because everyone knew McDavid was coming. So it's like, oh, how much money am I going to put into 14-15 Series 2 when there's no really names at that time? What are we going to do? So I bet you they produced 25-30% of Series 2 compared to what they did of Upper Deck Series 1, 15-16.
So are they going to do that this year too?
There's no doubt in my mind Upper Deck is going to produce a hell of a lot more for Connor Bedard.
Well, Brad, I was already making
Series 2.
plans. I was going to have my Connor Bedard wallpaper. There was just going to be Young Guns. I was literally just going to fill my wall with them, just paste them on because it's like, well, I ran out of room for the door stops. I ran out of room for my paperweights, 100 bricks of Connor Bedards that I've got here. Short printed, guys. Short printed.
Yeah.
Moving on.
What do you think of Connor Bedard, Brad?
He's a big fan from what I've gathered. Brad,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, yeah. I mean, he's just an incredible talent. I think he's a great kid. But you never know. I still think the same thing with Lafreniere. I think he's going to come out of his shell at some point in the right environment. Sometimes players just take a little bit longer to really come out and see. But Connor Bedard is anybody that knows the game of hockey. Like, that kid is just off the charts skill. And it's very seldom do you really get it wrong in the hockey circles. Like, they kind of predict your Crosby, your McDavid, your Bedard's kind of the next in that line. If he doesn't get hurt, he's absolutely phenomenal. I think you can tell to this World Juniors here, you're going to see him against his peers in his class. He's still going to be one of the youngest guys out there, but you'll get to see Connor Bedard, and we get to see him, fortunately, here in Halifax, which is going to be very exciting to see. I think you'll see him perform. It will be nuts. And then like I said, I'm pushing so much for PSA to bring on-site grading.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be absolutely massive to have on-site grading at the Toronto Expo in November.
I think at that point, I'll be like, so I got an idea, Yannick. We're just going to do a time lapse of just like one line after. It's like, just leave it there for 3 days.
Yeah.
Time lapse the damn thing. It's just on-site grading. Go, go, go. So let me touch on this one here. I'll get caught up in a couple. Thank you all for the comments. Appreciate it as always. So there's some good ones here. That was a good topic, though. We wanted to take a minute to talk about that because I think that's an interesting, and it's speculation on our part, but it's educated speculation in this case. We're not just making stuff up. We've seen certain things that indicate to us we can give theories, but only Upper Deck knows for 100% sure. They're the only ones that really know. So Dave here says, is Pokemon based on a movie? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin. I believe it was the video game first, and then the cartoon, and then they eventually did get a movie, but that was like third.
The movie came out in 2000.
Yeah.
The video game came out in 1995.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And then the card game came out in 1996 in Japan.
That's right. And then I think 99 in North America, some thereabouts.
99 was the first release technically late 1998. They had some like demo releases and stuff like that in Canada and the US, but the real release was 1999.
Yeah, because I'm just going from memory because I was around the card shops when that product was first introduced. So I remember being physically there. By that point I was aged out of it, but my younger brother watched the cartoon, so I knew what it was. And I remember watching the kids try to pull the Charizard and all that stuff and the Pikachu and get the foils and all that.
And the show still runs. The show's been running since it started. And the character who is the main character after, what is this, 26 years, 27 years?
Right.
Actually, no, I think it's longer for the Japanese one. But he just became the champion after all these years of him coming and losing and that. So it was a big thing that happened in the last couple of weeks where he became the world champion in the show. So no idea what happens at the Pokemon show now, but
there's a character? Is it a guy? Like, it's not Pikachu or Charizard?
No, like the trainer who has the Pokemon and like trains the Pokemon and they battle one another. His name is Ash. He finally
so after all this time he finally won?
He finally
won, like actually became the champion?
Yeah. He had come like 4th, he had come 2nd, he'd come 12th, and he finally won.
Wait, how many of these damn things did they run in the last 26 years? What the hell's going on?
Every year. It's like 27 seasons.
Was the competitor against him going, retire, old man? You've been at this forever. Give up.
He never aged. He's the same age as when the show started. He's the same age.
See, that's cheating. That's performance enhancing right there. That's cheating. That's cheating. What's happening.
To be fair, he turned 8 in the show, and then his mom sent him on a Pokemon journey and just let him go for the last 26 years. So
I'm just deeply disturbed by this revelation that he finally won after 26 years.
Can you have a wrestler? Like, if you compare that to wrestling, is there a wrestler that has a prolific career for 26 years and has never held a belt, like a championship? I can't see that.
So a championship or the championship? Because there are guys who have held championships along the way, but never the championship.
Right. Yeah, I'm going back to my 80s wrestling days. I would say a tag team championship Intercontinental or the WWF Championship belt.
No, not
Like a
that
big
long.
one.
You would have been gifted one out of pity by that point.
You had to.
like they would have just like found an excuse to be like, all right, here, you got one. I would think like a guy like Dustin Rhodes. Dustin Rhodes, who was gold dust in WWE, but he's had a long and storied career, but he's never been world champion. That was never his thing. That's where his younger brother is now. The story is he's going to try to become world champion in WWE to make that work, to fit that story in that story. But he was the one. He's been wrestling for 30 plus years. He's been at it a very long time, but he's had a great career. Like by all accounts, he's had a great career, but he's never been world champion. So like the top guy for even a brief period of time, even for a cup of coffee. So Baz here says Fanatics wants to 10x the hobby. Get ready for 10x the printing. So the thing is, 10x the printing doesn't necessarily accomplish that. At the end of the day, the goal is profitability. If you print too much, then it's too ubiquitous and it's garbage. And the analogy I always use is that if you're a business, so, hypothetically, so Luke, Kevin, Brad, you're a business. Your goal is to make money. Which one makes you more money? 100 customers that are paying you $1,000, or 2 customers that are paying you $200,000 each. We don't need to fire up our calculators to figure this one out. But why would less customers be? It only matters the revenue and profitability. And in reality, servicing 2 customers can be a lot easier than servicing 100 customers. So under the right circumstance, it might make more sense to have less customers and just charge them more. That's the equilibrium that companies find. They're like, that's why when everybody asks like, oh, why would they raise their rates? We're going to go to their competitor. They go, yeah. But as a customer, you're a pain in the ass. They want you to go to the competitor because then it's going to cost them more money to deal with you, and then they're making more money on their side. That's ruthless business, but it's business.
There's a way I want to articulate this the right way, but the hobby is so much more than new product being printed as well, as we all know.
Yeah.
I feel like there's ways that you can increase the hobby, not just based on new product, by incentivizing older product, by other things out there. I feel like Fanatics is going to work those angles as well. And I know, Upper Deck and Tops, they've all done a Panini with, well, I don't know if Panini has, but buybacks. I feel like there's going to be.
We actually got a question about buybacks. It's funny you bring that up.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that stuff. And I feel like that's going to be another way to stimulate the hobby.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I'll read a couple of these here. So Bobby likes Panini checks too. I like Fanatics checks under the right circumstances. Moving on. Rod here says, didn't UD need to go to Italy or something? So they have used a printing facility, a supplier in Italy to print some of their stuff. I don't think it's just AEW. It's some I think they've done some Italy stuff for Upper Deck hockey, I should say. For some of the hockey product, they've gone to Italy for some of that. I know I've had that mentioned in some conversations I've had. So I think Italy is one facility they've got out there that has been able to help them actually get some product out. That's helped the supply lines. So I think Hobby Cop's offer is good. I think it'll help with Upper Deck MVP. I think that's a win for everybody. So Eric, he says, that's my official cease and desist order. Carlos, stop offering people such cheap rates for the like button. I want to pay more. Got it. Will do, Eric. I think the only thing, Ken, is like I said, his typo, like the autocorrect on his thing is awful. I translated it for him. It's okay. So Dave says the only thing Ken wouldn't want to discuss is Master Shield betting. I think there's a lot of things Ken doesn't want to discuss. A lot of folks throw a scoreboard in, but he was out when the really bad stuff went down. No, that's fair, Dave. I think Discovery for somebody like Ken would be problematic, is the way that I would phrase it. So Nico K here. Hey, Luke, the Langley show cards, have they been shipped out yet? So that one's for you, Luke.
No, not all of them. I'm going to continue working on them. It's been a busy couple weeks. Having traveled the last couple of weeks or whatever, and then also as well getting all the shipments back. So my plan is by the end of this weekend, it'll be all out. So
sounds good. Thank you for the update there, and thank you, Nico, for the question. So KC says, how big or small of an impact are e-packs in the market? So for a lot of stuff, minimal, but for some stuff, I find it can be impactful, and I'll explain the specific scenario. And guys, feel free to add anything you like on any. There are certain issues that I'll see where the product will come out and stuff will sell at a certain price. But then e-pack adds this X factor, because what happens is as soon as e-pack comes out, there's no way to know how much there is in e-pack. And I will use the AEW example because obviously I participated in it. That's one. I don't buy a lot of hockey product, so not new product. I buy old stuff for my player collections. But what happens is they had a certain amount of product that released. They had a certain amount of retail that released. The retail blasters never made it to Canada. So we only got the hobby boxes, and they were kind of expensive. But then e-pack came out. And e-pack came out, well, e-pack wasn't cheap either. But people found after a little while, some of the good hits were finding their way into EPAC. So all of a sudden they were available a lot more easily, and EPAC has a connection to COMC. So all of a sudden you could go on COMC and find certain cards that turned out to be kind of difficult in the initial run, suddenly were available in abundance. So kind of interesting. And that meant that some people started dumping stuff on COMC. And initially after that EPAC wave came in, prices plummeted. So it had a pretty impactful thing initially. And the same thing happens with Upper Deck, Series 1, Series 2. So there can be, it won't affect everything across the board. Truly rare and desirable stuff will still do well. But certain stuff that is a little bit tough, but not like ridiculously tough, is suddenly available in abundance briefly for a little window before it gets scooped up. And suddenly you can pick up stuff on the cheap. So that's been my experience with EPAC. Anybody want to chime in with any experiences or anything they've seen?
Spent way too much money on EPAC Marvel. Way too much money. Like, you know,
It's a cash cow, man. It's a cash cow for them. It really is.
It's so easy. It's so easy. You don't even have to. Oh, you could click open all, and then you just look through what you got. It's dangerous. Brad, I'm telling you, when the Fleer Marvel set, just do not let me even touch my phone to buy it. Like, I don't want it. I don't want it. It's terrible. It's so easy.
I've never done it, so
I refuse to buy it anymore.
It's online gambling is what it is. Like, that'd be the nicest way I can present it to you. It's online gambling. It makes certain things real easy. Like I've bought some of the match moments and things that they produce for AEW, and I've pulled some of the good ones. And I get offers, like crazy offers I've got. And I went and put some on COMC, immediately sold it for like 10 times what I spent on those packs. Immediately. Like, it lasted like 3 hours. Gone. Paid. Full price. They didn't even negotiate with me. And I was like, because I was one of the first ones on the market, and it was one of the slightly tougher pulls. And they wanted it, and it was the right time, right place. Boom, gone. And don't forget, it's COMC. No refunds, no takebacks. It's yours now. It's yours now, and the money's mine. So it can be good. So to answer your question, on a lot of stuff, the impact is minimal. But on some stuff, it can be very impactful, because some stuff that initially seemed to be kind of tough to pull can suddenly flood the market all at once. And then suddenly, like, if you're able to be patient on some of those items, then it becomes really easy to get your hands on it. And
I think my issue is I just can't sell things. Had I sold when I opened, would have been fine. Would have been in the clear. I would have been so good, and then I didn't.
The delay does hurt you. The delay does hurt you for sure. So Hockey, what if the McDavid Young Guns PSA 10 pop approaches the Yager O-Pee-Chee? I assume you mean O-Pee-Chee Premier. I don't think that's ever going to happen. The O-Pee-Chee Premier, I think they're still printing it right now. If you listen to the background in Luke's place right now, you can hear the printer going off. He's printing off some more Yagers.
I have a case and a half of it sealed.
No, look, I say it jokingly, but like, seriously, O-Pee-Chee Premier, I actually like O-Pee-Chee Premier. As a set, I thought it was very clean for 1990. I thought it's a good looking set. There's plenty. I could wallpaper my wall with pick your favorite, and I could wallpaper it without any problem. I can get my hands on as much as you want.
yeah,
It's my favorite stuff from the 90s.
I love it too, and it's fun to grade because it's tough to grade because there's so many
Yeah.
different things on those cards. But there's a guy, I don't know him personally, but Dave Weir. When I seen this comment come up, he did this whole Yager PSA 10 analysis, and I think he's done an incredibly good job with it. He's followed the prices where he thought it should settle in. Anyways, he just posted this like yesterday. Mm-hmm. So I screenshotted for my uncle. I wanted to send it to him. There's 3,320 PSA 10s right now. And he does the whole post. Maybe we'll talk about that on the Friday night show, but it's fun. It's very interesting what he's done. Because he broke back in January 2020. There was 2,739. Mm-hmm. Through that whole 2021 and 2022, there's only been 500 more Yager PSA 10s added. So in that 2-year period. So
nice. I like it. So Mark here says, do you think Fanatics will buy back cards like Topps used to do? So that was the question that kind of played into what Brad was saying. It's viable. It's a way, like, look, I'll tell you, I did on my channel when I talked to Billy Cilio from Upper Deck, one of the Easter eggs they threw in were buyback cards. And the reason they did that is because people asked, hey, can you put in some more hard signed autographs in the product? Now, they didn't announce it, but obviously as people started opening up cases, they started finding, and they found like, penny sleeved cards, and it turned out it was the card autograph, but then on the other side of it was a certificate of authenticity card. So if you see something with a penny sleeve in a pack, that's not an accident. That's actually a really good pull because all of those are out of 15. So all the different ones that got autographed. it's a way to add additional hits that you don't announce that are not at any specific seating, but they're actually pretty decent hits. Hard signed autographs from the previous product, they got them signed and got them included in the product, so you get your hard sign. So Fanatics could totally use that as a viable way to add additional hits into a product if that's what they chose to do. And it's not a bad idea. And also, Fanatics owns Topps. So yeah, of course they're going to do buybacks. Why would you venture away? When Topps used to do it, they own Topps. Why wouldn't they keep doing it? They already do it. So here are the Alex Formanton cards.
I have a ton. I think obviously I must have mentioned that Hockey 99 remembered my Alex Formanton collection.
He hangs on every word you say. He literally writes everything down.
Yeah, I just seen today. So he's ineligible to play in the NHL for the rest of the year now.
Okay.
Maybe it's Sherry.
What's that?
Maybe Hockey 99 is Sherry.
That would be like a next level. I would like that. That would be like a great
Think
review.
about it. Who knows how that much about Brad?
No, there's like this is completely odd. I have no idea, and I don't think I ever will, because as soon as I thought I could narrow it down, there's some sentences that he uses or she uses that throws me for a complete.
I was going to say the conspiracy deepens.
Yeah, it's a big conspiracy. No idea, and I kind of like it.
Brad will be checking the phone tonight when Sherry's asleep, being like, "Is she?"
Do you have a burner? So Yannick here says I'm in. I'm assuming that's pertaining to the photographing the onside grade, because that'd be funny.
Yeah.
Washington Generals, that's right. Okay, so let's get this one. Companies made a lot during the junk wax era. Why wouldn't do the same now and worry about the repercussions later? They wouldn't be able to pull it off. Because in the junk wax era, like I've said this, like in seriousness, if you tried to pull off the kind of printing you didn't, because people don't understand when they keep saying like, oh, they're overprinting like the junk wax era. It's like, you guys do not understand how the junk wax era compared. I used one product. We did some napkin math one night. Just one night we did napkin math. 1991 Donruss, my favorite product. It was the first product I ever opened packs of, and Carlos Sr. had a bunch of them, and I opened a bunch of it. And at one point I had 12 Eddie Murrays that I pulled from pack. They were pack pulled from me personally. Best guesstimate napkin math based on the Donruss Elites that were in these cases that year. There were at least 4 million of each base card. 4 million of each base card, almost 800 cards in the set. Do the math. That's one series, one product, 1 year. One series, one product, 1 year. 1991 Topps was the 40th anniversary. They printed a lot of that too. 1991 Fleer, they printed a lot of that too. 1991 Score, they printed a crap. That was almost a 900 card set. They printed a ton of that too. Think about that. They printed way more cards in the 1990s than they ever printed the last 5 years. Go ahead, Luke.
I think it's gonna be harder for them to go and replicate that amount of production, even like as it is.
They also don't have the capacity. They don't have enough printers.
Yeah, but the thing is that they've also done a lot more different things, than they did back in the 90s, which they have numbered cards now. Back then, there was like barely any numbered cards back then, right? Base cards were all base cards, and rookies were all within the base cards, So, yeah, I don't think that'll ever happen again.
Yeah. Well, the other piece is I just used a very simple point. So the first point I made was just try to give you context for the sheer numbers so you can get your head around it, because it's difficult. It's difficult to imagine that many cards, and it's difficult to put it into context in your brain. But here's another one for you. In those days, you could go to Costco or a bunch of places, Sam's Club, whatever you want, and get pallets worth of the damn. The second that somebody sees pallets full of whatever insert Panini Topps product we're here, somebody will take a picture and stick it on Instagram, and 5 million people will see it inside of a couple of minutes. No, it's not rare. Here's a pallet of it. Somebody just bought a bunch of it, and they just rolled out another pallet, because that's what they would have to do to house all this print. If you tried to match the printing, you would. Brad, your allocation is 50 boxes, pallets. I'm like, I can't do anything with that. Please no.
No, it's true. And I think manufacturers, distributors, LCSs are all realizing now how much product the market can actually handle. And it's going to be everyone working together to realize that, because you can see allocations, more product becoming available because people can't afford as much. There's a whole turning process that's going to happen over 2023 with the whole scenario. It's going to be interesting. And at the end of the day, it's going to be great. The outcome will be great for collectors. That's for sure. So
Right. And the other piece of the puzzle as well that we got to remember is that why print more when you can just charge more? Why not just find the equilibrium price, charge a little bit more, and just keep the print run at a decent level, but not a ridiculous level? If you can print a little bit more and get away with it, you will. But printing at that level is just running the printer dry, and you're paying for extra paper and extra ink and all this stuff when all that stuff is more expensive than the 90s. And for what? You still have to sell the product. It doesn't matter if you get it physically out on shelves. Somebody has to buy it, or else you don't actually make any money. It doesn't work that way. George the Animal Steel. That's a good example of a long-time wrestler. That's a good one.
That's a
And
really good one.
to my recollection, I don't think. Yeah, I think Dave's onto something. That might be.
He's
one
never
that,
won. I don't think he ever won anything.
Yeah. Luke, favorite Stampede Wrestling moment is going for the deep cut. Stampede Wrestling.
I don't know the moment, but my favorite Stampede wrestler was Jimmy the Fly Snuka.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. A lot of them did make a trip down, so there was the thing. Sarah says you'll never know. I think she's hot.
I think all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all made trips down to Stampede at least at one point or another because they had a lot of respect. At that time, Stampede was considered like a solid promotion. They weren't like the top tier, but they were respected. They had a lot of respect.
Stu Hart, right?
Yep.
That's why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like he trained so many wrestlers that he had a lot of cachet. He could call in some favors and get some names in there for a cup of coffee to come in and do some feuds with some of their guys. And you had Owen Hart and Bret Hart that obviously came up in that system there, and they had a lot of respect to go along with Stu Hart. So you could get some talented folks to come in and, visit because in those days, you didn't just work for one company. You went from territory to territory. You'd have a couple of feuds, and then you'd leave. You wouldn't have time to get bored of them because they'd only be here for a little while, do their thing, and then go, and then do something somewhere else.
And you had the best commentator ever, Ed Whalen.
Okay, nice.
Ed Whalen?
Yeah, wasn't that his name? Ed Whalen?
I didn't catch too much
the
Stampede, so
commentator.
I didn't have it in my neck of the woods. I can't help you there.
Yeah,
I know of it, but I never got a chance to see much of it. So 5 to 6 independent licensed manufacturers back in the 90s with major reasons for the open printing. Fewer licensed manufacturers now will help. Yeah, but it also, like, honestly, we've got also less suppliers. Like the suppliers that remain. I'll give you a quick analogy, a simple one. There's been in the last 10 years, 5-10 years, whatever, a resurgence in vinyl sales for records. But they're not making as many as they did back in the day. And the reason for that is not because they couldn't sell them, because they have had a resurgence in selling them. They sold more of them because vinyl was just about dead. And then suddenly it's come back, and at least now they're producing records. However, the facilities closed during that moment when they were on the verge of dying. So there aren't too many places left that can actually press vinyl records. So it's not like, so they actually have backlogs where there are ones that want to make some, they can't because there aren't enough facilities to actually do it. So they can't replicate the production of back in the day because they can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they can't charge more than what the hobby box of NBA and NFL go for. So there's always a chance. You're saying we can't. Well, what if we could?
It'd be fun. Like I would start to I'd love to open up boxes of Prism basketball and football. Like I absolutely love to do that. But at $1,200, $1,500 a box, not a chance. If they ever come back to that $300-$400 range, it'd be a blast to open up a box of that. But
yeah, well, that's the thing. Like there is a price. That's why I said though, there's an equilibrium price point. The product is going to dictate that. The market is going to dictate that. People's pocketbook is going to dictate that. There are products where, like, at this price point, I'll open a box. But at this other price point, no chance. Not going to happen.
yeah.
Yeah. Bobby wants you so badly to tell the people about your jet-setting ways.
Tell one good fly into. Oh, he was commenting to Dave's previous comment. I like it.
Yep. Absolutely.
I did I just see Rod Koff, Bowman Chrome, Bowman Draft. Yeah. That's good. I bought into I'm in a break tomorrow, the big one that Dave and Adams is doing with Bowman Chrome baseball. They're doing like 5 or 6 cases. I got so I put it in, it's under my name. I got 2 spots in 2 of the breaks, and I don't even really understand it. I have no idea, but it's a huge break with plans. They sent the thing, can you buy some spots? I was like, absolutely. So I don't have any idea. Apparently there's a Milwaukee is who you want because there's a prospect Just playing with them.
The opinions expressed by Brad Hartland during this segment are not those of responsible financial activities.
Yeah, we're gonna see. We'll see what happens. See if it'll be. I'm excited for it anyway. So I'll watch.
So Rod gives you 3 here. So Brewers, Nationals, or Yankees. So apparently those are the ones. I don't keep too much tracks of the minor league system, but I was like, look, it's cool that the product is cool because I know there are people who legitimately like get deep in the weeds, like they know their prospect. But I'm sitting there like, guys, even the ones that are really good are like 5 years away from mattering.
Yeah.
Minimum. Like, what are we even talking about here? Soto was in 2016, and he was a prospect back then, but nobody gave a crap. His rookie was 2018. So you're looking at 2 or 3 years, and 2019 is really where it started taking off like crazy. So that was 3 years. You could have been holding a Soto that was virtually worthless for 3 years, and then suddenly, oh, wait, thousands of dollars. Okay, great. BBCE wrap boxes? Not quite. Not quite.
You don't need them when you buy from Dave and Adams.
There you go.
There's a plug.
Yeah, Jackson Churio for the Brewers. So apparently that's one of the
Jackson Churio. That's my guy. Come on, Milwaukee Brewers.
So remember we talked about gambling. We talked about gambling earlier and the boxes. So there is that aspect of it. 115 signers or something. Pretty tough to project. Yeah, there's a bunch of guys in there that are never going to do anything, and there's probably a couple of guys there that'll probably be pretty good. But it's hard to say. No way of knowing at this stage. And the problem is you won't know for years. It'll be years before you find out the answer. Look, there was that guy that paid it was $400,000 for Jason Dominguez, like Superfractor, or like $100,000 or whatever it was. And I did a comparison because at the time you could have bought an Albert Pujols, like one of his best rookies at that time for the same amount. I was like, Albert Pujols has 600 home runs. The other guy's Jason Dominguez, who at that time had not had a single major league at bat. So you tell me which one seems like a better idea. Yeah, you're Alex Manoah.
All 4 of them.
Great.
See the 5th one.
That's right. You might as well get the 5th one there. Jeez. See, this is what I'm saying. Brad is a hazard to himself. Somebody needs to protect this man from himself.
But at least you went with Manoah and not Pearson.
That's true. Yeah. Apparently Manoah's turned out like.
Do you know why I got into Manoah? To help me out with my Pearson collection. we have PSA 10s of Nate Pearson of the 5. How does it go in Bowman Chrome? 5, 25, 50, 99, 150 blue.
At this point, I've lost track of the amount of parallels they have. I know the out of 5 is the red refractor. I want to know for sure. And I think the gold's out of 50. I could be mistaken, but I think the gold's out of 50.
Green's out of 99. Blues 150.
Yeah.
Purple 250. Yeah.
Kevin, this is fallen into pure degeneracy right now. This is right now. It's sunk into pure degeneracy.
I know.
I'm not surprised.
Hey, if you talk about some of your winners, you have to talk about your losers, right?
Fair enough. It's like I think back on the pure wholesome days of Cheese Stringamon. I remember back to those days fondly. You know.
Last week.
Yeah, exactly. These were fun days,
Yep.
man. They were heady times. Red, orange, gold, black. Yep. Black's out of 71 to 75. That's kind of interesting. Okay. Sparkle at 71. Of course, sparkle. Yeah. Why not? There's a shimmer too, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I remember there used to be shimmer. Like there's a lot.
No, there's a shimmer of every color.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah, that's right.
But those are in retail, right? You get the shimmers come in retail boxes. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
I can't see anything wrong with Brad buying into a break. I can't see anything that could possibly go wrong. Nothing.
I know.
Is this your first break?
Is that
No. I don't do it very often, but this one was cool. There's actually we got 4 spots, and there's 3 of us. It's split 3 ways. Me and 2 of my buddies. So it will be entertaining.
As long as you're getting entertainment out of it. So, like I said, the opinions expressed by Brad Hartland are not those that PSA Canada recommends to anyone. None.
Exactly.
CC says, Brad, how many PSA 10 Brandon Morrow cards? Brandon Morrow. Maybe Brad, maybe a fun side PC. Maybe what you should do is you should do like Blue Jays failed pitching prospects. Yeah. Let's get us some Luke Prokopek, bro. Some Luke Prokopek. Let's go.
I remember that. Absolutely.
Yeah. That right there, that's a perfect example. That's the guy. Apparently home team advantage. So Rod says home team advantage. Thank you, Rod. Jack Sanford, PSA 10. There you go.
He always gives it to old Jake.
There you go.
Someone, so it's funny to talk about that, but I think somebody has his old phone number, Jake Sanford, because I
Okay.
got a text message from somebody and it came up as Jake Sanford.
Okay.
I think someone's actually using his number because I know what the guy asked me for. There's no way it was actually Jake Sanford again. So very interesting. We can talk about that maybe on some Friday night. I can get into it.
Interesting.
That one blew me away when I got the message. I was like, what is this coming through the pipeline?
Interesting. So let's do this, guys. Let's wind down on this one. And by the way, thank you all for the comments. It's been really great. It's been fun hanging out and also chatting with you. We got to go right now. This episode was going to be again just talking hobby and just hanging out and having a little fun. Now, but I do have a question for you guys, and we can elaborate more in the coming weeks. But I want you to think about this one a little bit. But I want to touch on something tonight. Obviously, right now we're at the beginning of the month. And we're going to head into the holidays here towards the tail end of them. Because the month of December to me is always one of the quickest months of the year. Because you sit there, you blink, and it's already holiday time and all that stuff going on. For submissions and stuff, for you guys, do you guys have any cutoffs? Is there anything that's coming up for that? Or what's the kind of deal with your situations, respectively?
Yeah. So I'll have no cutoffs at all. We'll accept packages all the way through.
Okay.
I do recommend to people, though, if you want to send it, feel free. But I wouldn't send through the holidays.
Yeah.
I'd wait till after it. So if you're thinking about sending a package on, I don't know, kind of like the December 19th in around that, if your package isn't gone by December 19th, I'd wait till after New Year's. There's just less chances for any problems to happen with staff shortages. That's all through the postal system or FedEx, whoever, nothing to do with us.
Yep.
So we will be accepting packages. I know Kevin, Luke, same thing. But if people realistically, I just wait. If you don't get it out by like the 18th, 19th, just wait until after the holidays.
My last shipping date of Brad will be the 15th for anything that I receive. That's my hard cutoff. At that point, I'll still obviously accept and receive and let everyone know that I have their cards, but then I won't ship until probably January 3rd after that, just because I never shipped anything after like December 15th. It's like not going to happen.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to propose the question, because it is a consideration. We know there's postal service and all the couriers and stuff. It's going to slow down. Like you're going to basically hit a wall. You got a little window right now, and then you kind of got to get your stuff out if you want to get it without having a bunch of holiday delays, where stuff just kind of sits somewhere in a warehouse until it's ready to be shipped off to you. Luke, do you have any cutoffs?
Yes. I'm sorry. Same thing with the store drop off in Toronto. If you're dropping off at the store, my last trip up to grab stuff will be on the 14th. So,
got it.
That's me.
Anything similar for you, Luke? Any cutoffs or anything?
No, don't have any cutoffs or anything. But I mean, just don't send it last minute. Obviously, because like there's gonna be delays and stuff like that, and you just expect that if it will be delayed and might not get until the new year anyway. So why not just wait?
Luke will be delivering cards on Christmas Day to people up there. He'll have his snowshoes on. He'll be going through the snow. There's no stopping that man.
Well,
If I have to, I will.
I always used to laugh because I used to work in a call center. It was 24/7 at 365. And the thing is, obviously, you respect the holidays and everything. My family lives a couple of blocks down, so they're nearby. But the thing is, like, holidays don't mean crap to me. I work right through holidays. Yeah, I volunteered to work on Christmas. I volunteered to work on New Year's. I used to work on now it helped. It was double time and a half. There were reasons behind it. But it's like, no, I'll meet you guys for dinner after. Don't even worry about it. It'll be fine. But I guess it kind of depends on your situation, because some people are traveling, and obviously also mail is going to slow down, so that's part of it. So at least we know we got Santa Luke, so he'll grab cards, deliver cards, it'll all be good. So I'm just checking here.
We'll come pick them up from my house too.
So one note here that I think is a good point. So Kevin, you made reference to your store. We never really specifically talk about it, but can you give a detail? Where is your store? It's in Toronto area. What is the information for that?
Yeah, it's my store. So my business partner, we're 7 days a week. It's 298 Gerrard Street, the upper unit. Toronto Cards and Collectibles. So that's what it's called. The cards are accepted all the time. I typically go up once a week or once every 2 weeks to grab them. If not, they get shipped to me. So same kind of situation. It's just kind of a consolidated shipment area, but it's taken off pretty well. There's a lot of people who on the sports side of things are utilizing that as opposed to coming to St. Thomas because it's about 2 hours from Toronto. Yeah, so that's the store. It like I said, it's 99% Pokemon at the moment, with like 1% dash of like Yu-Gi-Oh and sports and that kind of stuff, but it's 99% Pokemon. Yeah. So there it is.
Look at how good I am.
That is it. It's very small. It's the starting point.
Now, if
Like
you look
it,
back
that's
here, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor. If you look over here, right here is where the cheese Stringamon is going to go in a place of
Yep.
honor. It'll be a lit up case right
Yep.
about here. That's the spot. Just letting you guys know in advance. You know, I want to make sure you got a heads up there.
I'll get my graphic designer to edit your face into the actual Pokemon. So we'll call it. We'll change its name and everything. We'll inspire it after you.
I have no idea. That never happens. So I assure you, there's no photoshopping on my show at any point in time. By anyone.
I like it.
Jeff here says, new subscriber, great channel. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you. Yeah, I wanted to make sure we covered that a little bit because obviously we'll be touching on some of that. We've got a couple of weeks here, I think, upcoming. We'll have a couple more episodes. I'll chat with Brad and get this holiday schedule figured out. Next week should be normal. I don't think we should have any issue with that. So next will be pretty standard. Just as I'm winding down here, I completely forgot, but I want to include it here for a second. We got the Instagram there for PSA Canada. That's always the best spot if anything is changing, as far as specials, as far as prices, as far as any additional information about scheduling. If you had been subscribed to it, you would know they always confirm when the show's coming on, if there's a rescheduling or anything. We bear all that all in mind, so we want to make sure we include that, but that's a good spot to double check. Otherwise, I think that's good.
You know, one thing we should mention too.
Go ahead.
I just got it. Let me grab it here before
Brad
we
is inspired. He's got a thing.
I do. I don't know where I put it. So from the show calendar, this is kind of so not 100% confirmed, but it looks like the April 7th to 9th will be the Vancouver show.
Okay.
For 2023 to start. And then April 20th to 23rd is going to be Toronto. And then May 5th to 7th is going to be Edmonton. May 19th to 21st is going to be Montreal. And then we're looking at doing our first autograph show that we've had in probably 6 or 7 years here in Halifax on the first week of June. So anyways, it was it's nice to see Vancouver, Toronto, Edmonton, Montreal, everyone's working. The big shows are all working together to make sure there's no conflicts, and they're trying to spread it out accordingly. So it's going to be busy. April and May, there's going to be 4. You got your 4 big shows happening in those 2 months, and the dates are confirmed now. So
Nice.
I'll fly around with my baby.
yeah, exactly.
It could work. It could work. And I'll also let you all know, and you guys in the chat can also prepare yourselves for it. One of my favorite things at the tail end, whenever we get to the very end of any of the, because I've got my live stream and then we've got this one here. When we get to the last episode of the year, hobby resolutions. I always love a good hobby resolution. So, think of one. I'm giving you time. I'm giving you an opportunity to take.
I'm already done. Don't buy things on EPAC. I'm done.
Right around that time, right in the new year, we're gonna be like, Kevin, can we see your EPAC? Is there anything you'd like to share with the rest of the class?
I love it.
Just saying. I want you to think about that. Moving on. Here you go. Who is coming for the autograph show, Brad?
For our show, we're working on. We talked about, and we haven't confirmed anything yet. But what I think I'd like to do is have Dougie Gilmore and Chris Nyland. That would be for our show. That's just our small little show in Halifax, which will be great. But I'm sure, obviously, Toronto will have a huge amount of autograph gifts again, and Montreal and Dale out in Vancouver as well. So,
yeah. Well, I think based on the last conversation when we chatted with Menzie, I think he's made it very clear that the mandate going forward is going to be a very heavy-duty autograph list. He wanted to step up his game with the autograph list, and he went hard this past show, without a doubt. So if the intention is to kind of keep it strong, to kind of do that kind of thing, I can't even imagine, but I can imagine he could go in a bunch of different directions and really be very aggressive, because that was a very strong checklist of autograph guests.
Yeah. And I know he's doing a lot with Andre Lassard, who runs the Montreal show now as well. And Andre's looking or assisting. I don't want to speak out of turn when I say, but I don't want to say he's just in charge, but he's assisting with autograph gifts, and he might be the man in charge of all of it. But he's doing Vancouver, Edmonton, Toronto, and his own show in Montreal. And he's going to help us out with our Halifax. So it's nice to have, I'm sure it's not going to be repetitive. It's going to be staggered out.
I'm just saying, Brad, you guys should get some Pokemon autographs. There's a the regional championship is in Toronto this weekend, and people started lining up at 8:30 tonight for tomorrow morning to get autographs from one of the signers.
The guy that just won. The guy who
No. Like
26 years. I know. I'm just joking.
The actual artist. I don't know, Michirito Arita, the one who drew Charizard.
That is
He's
both
there
impressive
doing
and
autographs.
disturbing. Both impressive and disturbing.
Oh man, Pokemon is crazy. These guys get these autographs. They will go and wait 16 hours in line, take like a $20 damaged card, get this guy to sign it, send it to PSA, and post it on eBay for $5,000, and it sells like 20 minutes later. It's insane.
I think
and you're buying into stupid Bowman Chrome, Brad? What the hell are you doing over there?
It's insane. It's insane.
You know, there's fans for everything out there. I learned that when I went to the AVN Awards about 15 years ago with a buddy of mine, Peter North, who's a celebrity in that world, in the adult film industries. And that was a whole new element for me. Like a whole.
There was no way I expected Peter North to end up in a conversation on this show. I would assume it would happen on Friday. I assume that's how we'd end up there. But
I went to the AVN back in 2001.
Yeah, well, we will talk about that on a Friday. I thought I might have already mentioned that experience, but when I seen 1,000 people lined up for his autograph with these like whole other, there's fans for everything out there. So
that is a fact. That is very true. I just like that we randomly went down that rabbit hole. We wound up there. I was like, sounds right. I didn't realize it was Friday. Dang. Okay. All right. You know, whatever works, I guess. There you go. All right. So real quick, I'll grab the last comments here. Hobby Cop says, I think I saw his class photo in JL High School.
Absolutely, you did. He's a fellow alumni.
There you go. Nico, I'll leave that comment right there. This has ventured dangerously into Friday territory. We're not there.
This is so Friday territory. And you know what? Honestly, it still surprises me. You wouldn't think that many people, like 40 plus maybe, would understand who he was. But like this guy's legend lives on, right?
Indeed. And on that bombshell, we're gonna run this one to a close. All right, guys. So thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. We'll be back next week on Thursday. It'll be 9 p.m. Eastern, same start time. And like I said, we'll give you a heads up if there's any changes to schedule, anything related to holidays. And we'll have the hobby resolutions episode. Whatever the last episode of the year is, whatever we schedule it out to be, that'll be the last one. And then we'll do that in that episode. It'll give us a little theme to have there at the end of the year. It'll be fun. We'll have a little fun.
Awesome.
So, Kevin, Luke, appreciate you as always. Thank you for coming in and hanging out. Have yourselves a good one. We will catch you next week.